All right, it is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That is brand new Queensryche, a tune called Vindication. And on the phone right now, we've got the lead vocalist of Queensryche, the one and only Todd LaTorre. Todd, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Excellent, man. Well, Todd, you know, I'm gonna come right out the gates fired, and I want the straight answer and not the label answer. A lot of pressure on you and you specifically this time with this release. You know, I mean, let's face it, everybody's looking at this Queensryche record and they are focusing on you. So do you feel the pressure that so many Queensryche fans have for, you know, not only for Queensryche, but for you as the new vocalist?
You know, I don't really feel that kind of pressure, to be honest. I mean, I think that the record is a great record and the music kind of speaks for itself. And, you know, I think the only pressure that I feel is really pressure that I place on myself. I think that the fans have had the past year to see my good performances and my not so great performances. And, you know, overall, I think that I'm fairly consistent. I'm constantly working on improving my singing skills, and you know, there's just such a great energy around the band and the guys and the fans that it's really lifted any kind of pressure, you know, that there was. I really, to be honest, I really don't feel any outside pressure. It's just, you know, I'm just my own worst critic. Hang on a second, Michael's playing guitar. Hold on.
All right.
Hey, Whip, I'm going to shut this door. I'm on an interview.
Nice.
Sorry, man.
It's all good, man. Well, dude, you know, with the record, and certainly a lot of eyes on this record, as you know, as the tale of Queensryche for the last year has been huge news. But the record is surprisingly not what I think everybody expected from you guys. I mean, I think everybody expected, you know, Rage for Order, Queensryche, and instead it's not quite that. It sort of touches on the past catalog, but it really does kind of define itself in its own way with its own kind of a vibe. And I think a lot of that is probably you. Do you think that that's true?
I would hate to take that much credit, but I certainly appreciate your sentiment. I mean, I think that I don't know what the fans were expecting, really. You know, I mean, they've had you know, the greatest works from the bands in their early you know, years. I would consider the first 6 albums to be their best work.
Sure.
And you know, on this new record, it really, I think that it does show some of the roots, but you know, the honest and best simple answer I can give you is this record had no outside writers, and so the reception from the fan base has been, wow, this sounds like Queensryche again. And I guess my answer would be, well, that's because the band, just the 5 of us, worked on it and wrote it. And, you know, me being a musician, not just a vocalist, I mean, I've been a drummer my whole life, and I play a little guitar, and I've been able to add to the creative side of the songwriting as an equal part of the 5 of us. So I think that it's got a nice representation of the different elements that the fans kind of expect and liked from Queensryche.
Sure. Now, Todd, this is not your first time stepping into a band that had a very popular front person. And certainly Crimson Glory with Midnight, and even with Wade Black as well. You know, they were fairly big names and certainly popular within their, you know, the circle that are the biggest fans.
Sure.
You know, how is it different with the Queensryche, you know, stepping into the Queensryche camp versus what you stepped into the first time? Did you like learn lessons from the first time that made the transition, I don't know, a little bit smoother?
Absolutely. You know, I've like I say, I've been a musician my whole life, but never fronted a band before. Crimson Glory, as you mentioned, you know, was also a pioneering progressive metal band that flew under a lot of people's radar, including mine. But once you dig into their history, and especially the first 2 albums, which are masterpieces of the genre, no question. And Midnight, the original vocalist, had an unparalleled range and an emotion that was so wonderful. So when I joined that band, obviously I had not toured before, so I was exposed to now playing in front of, in small clubs and then being part of big festivals like the Zwarte Cross in Holland and Bang Your Head Festival in Germany, and you're playing to, 20,000 plus people. And so that definitely, I think, shaped me and helped me to be able to step into where I am with Queensryche. I enjoy doing interviews, and everyone in the band has given me complete freedom. They don't muzzle me, and they trust my professionalism to be able to do interviews without them watching over me.
Sure.
But the business aspect of it and the creative aspect of this band compared to Crimson are really night and day. Everyone in this band diligently works every day, and we're in constant communication on a daily basis with whether it's business things or whether it's songwriting things or creative ideas. We're always looking to improve, and as you well know, this band is in the rebuilding process and is very much trying to reclaim the respect of the fan base and let them know that without them, this just wouldn't be possible like it is. So it's definitely helped me, and I feel like I'm right where I belong, and that was just a natural progression for, I don't know, what the stars have aligned for me, and I'm very thankful for this,
Sure. Now, you've said in many interviews that I've read, you've pretty much had nothing but respect for Jeff Tate and, everything that he's done vocally and, and everything
Sure.
else with the band. At the same time, what's going on now, and I know you see it, I'm positive you guys see all the crazy stuff that's coming out of his mouth, right now. Is it frustrating almost to be in what used to be his shoes and just see him kind of tanking it a different way, so to speak, with the same name that you guys are out there promoting?
Well, in all fairness, the best thing that, and from my heart, that I would say is I still have complete respect for Jeff as a vocalist. I never knew him as a person, so it would kind of be fair for me to even make a comment that would be negative towards him as an individual, because I just don't know him.
Okay.
I have met him twice as a fan, but I certainly haven't engaged in any way. If I saw him in person, I would still be very respectful. And, the man is legendary. If he never sang another note, he's probably forgotten more than most singers will ever aspire to achieve. And so I do consider him one of the all-time greatest, and he was a huge influence in shaping a certain unique, defined sound that was very influential to me. And so that would be really my comment. As far as the other drama that's been in the press and what he says and what he doesn't say, I can't devote that kind of my psychology just won't work well if I go there.
Sure.
Because that drama preceded me, and even though I am in the mix, I'm a human being. It's not like I don't have my own personal feelings on some things.
Well, sure.
But I'm not going to sit here and bash the man at all, and I won't. And best of luck for him, and best wishes to him as an artist and whatever he pursues. But where I'm at and with these guys is really, and I mean no disrespect, I'm just trying to be completely pragmatic, that I really feel that I am in the only version of Queensryche. Even though there's another band out there touring, I just think that it really boils down to the music. Mm-hmm. And, he's got wonderful musicians that have accompanied him. But to call it Queensryche, I think is a bit unfair. And the record is speaking for itself, which is completely indicative and representative that the guys in the band that I play in are in fact Queensryche, because it sounds like it. Nothing was contrived. It was just a very organic body of work that this record was. It's a great starting point for this new chapter, and the fans can like everything. If they love what he's doing, then more power to them, and I want that.
Sure.
And if people love what we're doing, well, then obviously I want that for us too. And if people just can take it to extreme levels that the band, they're more into the drama than the band. We're not interested in that. We're just interested in writing great songs, and we hope that the fans will receive it the way that we're trying to represent it. And that's really the truth of the matter.
Sure. Now, listening to the album, it's very clear that there were a lot of riffs, and I'm, maybe I should ask Whip this instead of you, but it just seems like there were a lot of riffs that came from a lot of different eras. And I don't know if they were new riffs or if they were things that just didn't make other things that Michael wanted to bring to the table. But it just feels like, there are definite moments that you can pick through the album a little bit and kind of hear elements of various points in the band's career. When you guys were writing this stuff, and certainly you were, right there in the mix, did you see that, and did the band see that as well, or was it really not even picked apart that way? It just kind of was like an organic flow of music that came out?
Yes, the one that you just mentioned, it really was. But again, if I can revert back to the previous answer, mm-hmm. it would only be fitting and natural that the quote riffs would sound periodic, because these are the guys that wrote that stuff. So your bag of tricks is only so big and so deep, and hence a particular style. If Yngwie wrote something today, perhaps someone could say, "Wow, that sounds like something he would have played in 1986." But that's Yngwie's sound and his style, which makes him so unique and noticeable. In the same way, I think that this album reflects those periods, because you're not going to write every single song with the same feel and the same tone and riff, let's say. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think the diversity of the material on the new album kind of supports what you're saying, that you're hearing things that maybe could have been from this record or that record or that record. Sure. But yeah, it was a completely natural thing that all the songs are brand new. Nothing that is on the new record are shelved songs. Now, whether or not there was a quote riff that mm-hmm. they've had, in their mind for years that just never made it on another record, I couldn't say, because I'm not those guys, but it wouldn't be uncommon, or it very well could be an idea, but certainly the song building and structure all happened new, and with the five of us.
Sure. Were you comfortable yourself in the studio as the one newbie, more or less, to go ahead and say, hey, maybe try this way, or that doesn't sound right, or that doesn't feel like what I'm doing, or
yeah. There was a point in time where I actually had to say, hey, look, guys, if you think I'm a little too vocal in my opinion of an idea, or trying to throw things out on the table, please let me know. I'm the new guy. I'll shut my mouth and just do whatever. But they were like, no, are you kidding? That's part of, this is how, we want it.
Sure.
And so there was some moments in the studio when Scott was tracking drums, and because I'm a drummer, I had an idea.
Okay.
So I would go into the room where he was tracking and talk drums with him, and, some of those ideas made it on the record. So even some guitar part that I wrote. So yeah, it was, I didn't really feel pressure in that regard.
Cool. Well, Todd, the bread and butter of you being in Queensryche and going back to even the Rising West stuff has been you and the band, how it sounds on the live stage. And clearly you've been able to recapture something that most fans thought had been missing for a long time. For you coming into into the project, what has the fan reaction been like for you, and is it more or less than what you expected?
It's a lot. Well, I would say it's more than what I expected, for sure, because let's face it, these fans are diehard fans. They're extremely protective of, quote, their band. Mm-hmm. And it's a roll of the dice, man. It's a roll of the dice. But fans come up all the time and they say, wow, you really you nailed that or you owned it. And of course they expect the band to play it great because it's their material. But for me particularly, so many people are so gracious, and they come up and they feel the energy. They see these guys smiling. They know that I'm giving it my all. And there's been times when I've lost my voice or I have sinus problems and
Sure.
all of the variables that come into play from touring that are hard on a vocalist. It's very demanding and very hard. And but yeah, they've been very receptive and extremely supportive, which is the reason why this band, I think, has been able to go on so great, because as great as these guys are as musicians and songwriters, and even with their legendary status, it really, I believe, would hinge on the vocalist as to whether or not that would really work. It has to be a complete unit. They could have got somebody else that maybe, there's lots of guys that sing higher notes and maybe cleaner and could do it a little better that way, but I think that the subtleties and those little nuances that Jeff was always so known for was something that I just grasped at a very early age. And I think those characteristics are what kind of separates someone from being able to hit notes and someone being able to actually sell
Sure.
the song as a vocalist.
Very cool. Well, the new album is simply called Queensryche. It is definitely a great album, a return to form. A lot of people are calling it. I'll just call it a great album.
Thank you. Yeah.
Before I let you go, Todd, let me ask you what is known as the traditional classic metal show question. We ask this to everybody, and you haven't been on before, so we'll ask you for the first time. How has Lemmy from Motorhead influenced your career?
I'll be honest, I respect the man for all of the work that he's done, but personally, it wasn't much of an influence vocally, because it was just a completely different style of singing.
Sure.
He's great at what he does. I could never sing Motorhead there's only one Lemmy,
right.
and what can you say? But I was more into the operatic power metal style or progressive metal. So I wasn't a huge Motorhead wasn't on my radar per se.
Okay.
But that's not to diminish or devalue certainly, what they've accomplished. I mean, I've met him before, and it was a huge honor. But personally, he was not influential to me.
Cool. Fair enough. Well, Todd, as a tradition on the show, we always let the artist pick a closing track. Why don't you pick something from the new album and tell us a quick story about it to close out?
Well, you know what? Why don't we play Fallout, because it's a great impacting song. I think it's got a lot of drive to it, and it's just got a great feel to it, man. And it's just about moving forward, which is kind of the theme of the record, if there were one. It's just about moving forward, going through the trenches and seeing a great light on the other side.
Awesome. Well, let's check it out. It is Fallout. It is brand new Queensryche right here on your Classic Metal Show.